Hey everyone, and welcome to the Sketchbook Challenge. For this exercise, what we're going to do is expand on the last exercise a little bit. Last time what we did was create a three-dimensional cube. This time what we're going to do is create a house, just a little house or a barn with a tree. So we're going to kind of combine a couple exercises from the past into one. So we're starting to build up some different elements, and eventually we'll be able to build up and draw complete scenes. So what we're going to do is talk a little bit about perspective. First thing I want to have you do is just take a ruler here and we'll draw, just draw a straight line like this. We'll draw a rectangle. I'm just going to freehand the rest of it. So that's pretty flat there. I'm just going to freehand. Doesn't have to be perfect anyway. We're going to draw a rectangle. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're going to draw a little barn. And when we're talking about perspective, we want to figure out how the lines work on the face of the barn. So we're going to be able to see a little bit of the barn here. And one thing I see, a common mistake, is where the roof line is connecting up with the other roof line on the other side. So we'll talk about all those things here in a second. So I'm just going to extend these lines because this is going to be the roof. And that will extend out a little bit. Okay, first thing I want to figure out is where the horizon line is. So let's say that this barn was below the horizon line. Maybe the horizon line's up here somewhere. If that's the case, every line coming up from the barn, from the face, is going to go up towards the horizon line. If the horizon line was way down here, maybe this is way up on a cliff, maybe the horizon line's way down here, the lines are going to recede down towards the horizon line. Okay, we're going to get into more about perspective a little bit later, but just for the sake of this exercise, let's say the horizon line is right in the middle. That's usually, it's more likely in the middle or top middle, lower middle. It's not usually way down low or way up high. Up high is actually probably more common. So we'll say it's right in the middle here. We'll just even draw a little line like that. If that's the case, the face of the barn is going to have, the bottom is going to go up towards the horizon line. Now since the roof is above, I'm just going to draw the angle here to this roof. Okay, since this is above, this piece of the roof and then the piece coming down this is actually going to be a little bit lower like this, because what's happening is it's on a plane right here. And since this is above the horizon line, it's going to be on a downward plane. This is on an upward plane because it's below the horizon line. This is on a downward plane. Okay, so when we draw in the front of the barn here, it's going to be on this plane here, and these roof lines, or roof edges, are going to be on a downward plane like that. Okay, so this piece here will be straight across, since we're only just really doing 1 point perspective here. And then once you get over here, this is going to be parallel. This line is going to be parallel to this line. Okay, so if we could see through this barn, the opposite face, this line here, would be parallel to here. And if you could see this opposite roof edge, it would also be on a downward plane like that. On a one-point perspective, anything below the horizon line is going to have an upward plane or path. Anything above the horizon line as it recedes will have a downward plane or path. Okay, so what about the doorway? Let's say there's a doorway here. Well, the top of the doorway is above the horizon line, so it would have a slightly downward path at the top, and this bottom part would have an upward path because it's below the horizon line. If the doorway were right in the middle, let's say the doorway was lower, it would actually be pretty much straight across because it would be even with the horizon line. Okay, so we'll make it a little lower just for fun. So this would be straight across this doorway. I'm actually going to make this a little bit lower. Okay, now let's just do, what we'll do here is we'll draw a tree in. We'll say it's a little bit in front of the barn. Okay, and we'll say the foliage kind of comes down. We won't go into too much detail there. Okay, I'm going to draw in some windows. Okay, now what you can do is just kind of for fun, add in some detail. Say there's maybe some bushes here, some grass. Maybe there's an old pathway coming up to the barn. As for shading, what we'll do is we'll say the light source is coming from this right hand side. So this front side of the barn, just like our cube, is going to be a little bit in shadow. The doorway will be darker since it's receding in. It's like the below ground type of thing. Okay, and then maybe we'll have, let's say that the boards to this barn are vertical. So you can draw in some boards add in some detail just for fun. Really, we wanted to just practice this perspective and taking that cube into an actual object. So this is the same thing as drawing that cube. If you haven't seen that exercise, you can just go to my channel and look through my videos, or go to the sketchbookchallenge.com. Okay, so if this is a cube here, this roof area here will be coming out a little bit. And let's say that the light is from the top angle. So just below that roof line, there'd be a little shadow. So I'm just doing hatch marks. Okay, then I'll take my white colored pencil and I'm just going to go into each little board and lighten it up a little bit. Essentially what I'm doing is lighting up the face, but now we've got this tree here. So this is going to cast a shadow. And what happens is a shadow comes out and then up. So this shadow would come up like that. And then follow the angle. So it's going to change direction here and follow the angle of the roof and then spread out with the foliage. Okay, so a shadow doesn't just follow one little path, it follows the ground direction, kind of along the same idea as the vanishing point, but then when it reaches a face, it will go straight up, and then when it reaches a slant, it will follow the slant in most cases. Okay, so since there's light coming from this side, we'll, just like the cylindrical shape again, highlight the front face and then just put in a little shading here. We'll put a little grass in. Okay, and just for fun, I'll draw in a few more branches, then maybe just shade it by scribbling in a little bit. Eventually we'll get to drawing entire scenes. Right now I want to just talk about perspective, making an actual three-dimensional shape, and then talking a little bit about the shadow here. So once you kind of have these elements in like this, now you're all set up to do detail, where you can just maybe darken some of your lines. You can darken the shadow a little bit. Maybe darken the shadow just underneath the edge of the roof. Okay, and you can even indicate a little light on the roof as well. But if you do that, what you want to do is probably brighten up the face of the barn as well. we'll say it's a white barn, or that the light is more direct onto the barn, so it'll be a little bit brighter. Okay, and then we can go in and you could either darken the windows like this, say they're open, they're just kind of holes, an old barn like that, or you could even put in glass, just a little cross like that, and then just shade it a little bit. I'm just going to opt to have them open. Okay, and then I'm going to do a little more hatch marks here on the shadow being cast from the tree. Maybe a little more shadow on the tree. Maybe a little more of a highlight. Remember that rounded shape, so it's out from the edge a little bit. Okay, and we can even lighten the value a little bit of the grass surrounding to give the barn place. And then, since we're following the shadow this way, the shadow from the barn would come out like that. Maybe I'll do some vertical boards that you can see just from the side here. Okay, so that's the exercise for today. Let's recap really quick. What we're doing here is creating a rectangle, and then we're making basically a three-dimensional cube, except we're making it into a barn. So again, with horizon line, since we made this barn in the middle of the horizon line, the base of the barn going away is going to go up towards the horizon line. These two roof edges are going to follow this plane here down to the horizon line. And it all depends on your perspective. If you're sitting way down low, your horizon line is going to go up. If you're standing up on a cliff, your horizon line is going to go down. So this is kind of the perspective of just standing at a normal level, normal height, looking at a barn. So you can practice that. Remember, make a rectangle, determine where your horizon line is. You can actually practice trying different horizon line heights and see if you can get it right. Roof line, face are going to travel along paths either down to the horizon line if it's above the horizon line, or up to the horizon line if the element is below the horizon line. Then just create a tree out in front so you can practice doing a shadow and watching the shadow travel different angles up the barn. Put your shadow out here for your barn. Practice your cross hatching a little bit. Your roof is basically a rectangle. These lines here are going to be parallel. And that's pretty much it. So if you're enjoying the Sketchbook challenge, I hope you feel free to share with your friends, share the video, and comment and like on YouTube. I appreciate you following, and I hope you're enjoying the lessons. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again soon.